The film Jurassic Park is interesting to me because the filmmakers had the same challenge faced by John Hammond and the genetic engineers of InGen: bring dinosaurs back to life. It's easy to hand-wave away the science in a book or in a movie, hiding behind a few tidbits that seem convincing, but real special effects are tough. Steven Spielberg, along with the producers and visual effects supervisors, needed to believably recreate multiple extinct species in a way that was both exciting, realistic, and under budget. I know that some people disagree with me, and they're wrong, but I think that the dinosaur effects in Steven Spielberg's 1993 film Jurassic Park are still pretty good 30 years later. Yes, Hollywood special effects have progressed a lot since 1993, but I'd argue that Jurassic Park's mix of puppetry, models, humans in suits, and CGI still has the capacity to awe and then terrify its audience. Awe is Steven Spielberg's whole deal. For most of his career, Spielberg has been the king of inspiring awe, and I would argue that there may be no living filmmaker who does it better. As I discussed in my essay about translating the novel Jurassic Park into a screenplay and then a film, the book is somewhat lacking in awe or wonder. I mentioned in that essay how Jurassic Park, as a movie, had the challenge of selling people on the idea of a theme park with dinosaurs, because if the audience wanted it to really exist, if they wanted to go there, then the turn that the story makes towards horror and thrills as everything breaks down is made even more exciting and tragic. The whole film doesn't work unless you, like John Hammond, think that maybe this could have worked. Maybe next time you'll get it right. All this to say, our introduction to the dinosaurs of Jurassic Park is crucial. The film audience has to see these creatures with wonder and majesty. Jurassic Park has to really sell us on dinosaurs. In this video, I want to talk about two scenes in the film Jurassic Park. The first one is arguably the most famous scene in the movie, and the second one is a scene that doesn't actually advance the plot or show any characters evolving or changing. And yet this one scene is incredibly important for romanticizing the idea of Jurassic Park also. I want to talk about the scenes in detail, breaking them down and looking at the shots, the acting choices, and the special effects. It turns out, good films are the result of good choices, and Jurassic Park makes some great choices. Steven Spielberg's film Jaws is perhaps the most obvious analog to Jurassic Park, with its story of animal horror. Famously, the film holds off on really giving us a good glimpse of the titular shark, both for tension reasons as well as the shark prop was always breaking reasons. And there's really not a lot of shark in the final film, which works to its advantage. The sequence where Brody is spooked while throwing chum off the back of the boat is iconic because it's the film finally giving in and letting us get a good look at what we're scared of. Jurassic Park does the same thing with both the Tyrannosaurus Rex, which you first see a little over an hour into the movie, and then the Velociraptors, which you see, beyond just a few brief glimpses early on, an hour and 45 minutes into the 2-hour movie. Spielberg holds off on really letting us see the terrifying dinosaurs. This makes sense. The film tells you a lot about the carnivores before you meet them. You hear about their speed, their lethality, their danger. But you have to hold off on really showing them for the same reason you hold off on showing any horror villain. The more we see of them, the less scary they are. On the other hand, as I mentioned, the film needs to show the dinosaurs and the park in a good light. And so, 20 minutes into the film Jurassic Park, we get to see our first major dinosaur. Our protagonists, paleontologist Alan Grant, paleobotanist Ellie Sattler, mathematician, chaotician Ian Malcolm, and lawyer Donald Gennaro have arrived at a strange biological preserve. And while Gennaro and Malcolm have some idea of what's going on, the audience is still kind of in the same boat as Grant and Sattler. I should say, to be fair, I don't think anyone watching the movie didn't have some idea about its central conceit, that there were going to be dinosaurs on the island named Jurassic Park. I mean, maybe there was someone who wandered into a screening in 1993 like, well, I wonder what this movie is, and then found themselves taken for an incredible ride. I mean, good on you, whoever you are, keep living your oblivious life. The novel Jurassic Park has a similar plot to the film, although it introduces dinosaurs for the first time 14 pages in, and spills the beans on what's happening on the island just a few chapters later. This has the effect of kind of lessening the impact of how we first interact with dinosaurs. In the novel, the characters arrive at Isla Nublar, and while walking to the visitor center, Alan Grant spies what he thinks are palm trees with no leaves, what Crichton describes in the book as just a big curving stump. The stump moves, and Grant realizes he's looking at a Brontosaurus. A number of other Brontosaurus heads rise up. Ellie repeats, "My God," a few times. Gennaro realizes they're going to make a fortune in this place, and Grant starts to laugh. both in amazement at what he's seeing and because each of the brontosauruses, quote, had the same pleasant, rather stupid gaze. The protagonists are whisked off to their tour, and I kid you not, Crichton writes, the group followed Ed Regis toward the nearest buildings. Over the path, a crude hand-painted sign read, "Welcome to Jurassic Park." I think that the sequence is a real wet balloon fart. In various early screenplays, the writers really grappled with how to show the dinosaurs. And this sequence was moved later in the film, or in some cases just excised entirely in favor of John Hammond or Jurassic Park PR guy Ed Regis just stating they were cloning dinosaurs. In the screenplays that did feature the scene, they really pushed the idea of Grant laughing, and in one draft he just passes out. This is so confusing. The authors of these screenplays know that they're writing a Steven Spielberg movie, so why aren't they trusting him? David Koepp is the first of the screenwriters to really understand the power of showing the dinosaurs to the audience. Back to the movie though. Let's go shot by shot through the movie's dinosaur reveal. The sequence starts with a long shot of the Jurassic Park gas-powered Jeeps as they move across a green field dotted with trees. John Williams' score is bouncy, exciting, brimming with possibility. If you pay attention, you can see that Ellie Sattler is holding a big leaf. It turns out that a scene right before this was filmed but cut, where Sattler would yank a big leaf off a plant that they were driving by. Spielberg realized that showing her doing this wasn't necessary, and he's right. I'll come back to that in a second. The next shot is a relatively static camera as the rear Jeep, which is carrying an anonymous driver, lawyer Gennaro, who's looking at paperwork, classic Gennaro, and John Hammond drives towards the camera and stops. Watch as Hammond urges the driver to stop like he's Steven Spielberg himself directing the action. The score almost drops out entirely, which is film code that tells an audience to, hey, pay attention, something's about to happen. Here's our third shot. We're seeing the lead Jeep drive toward the camera, and it also stops because it's been given a little honk from Hammond's Jeep. We have our second anonymous driver. Front seat is Dr. Sattler, and the back is Alan Grant and Ian Malcolm. Ellie has a line about the leaf. This shouldn't be here. She'll actually continue rambling about the leaf, but notice the film doesn't care what she's saying at this point. You can hear her dialogue is mixed pretty quiet in the background. Also notice that Jeff Goldblum's holding his hand to his chest in a super weird way that for many years made me think he was hugging his legs in the back seat. Nope, that's just how Jeff Goldblum is. We then cut to a medium shot that slowly pushes in on Alan Grant. This is the Spielberg reaction shot. He's the absolute best at this. The shot where you, as an audience, see someone react with awe and terror and wonder at something you cannot yet see. It's so iconic that there are dozens of videos and articles just about how he does it in his movies. And it's so beautifully done here. Alan Grant sees something he can't quite understand. Malcolm in the back is looking around, and then he also sees what Grant's looking at, but you'd be forgiven for not noticing since you're so fixated on Grant, who reaches out to steady himself on the Jeep. Hell, even the driver notices, but Spielberg doesn't want you to look at him, so he puts his face behind the rearview mirror. The score starts to stir a little. Jeff Goldblum again reaches for his breast. Now we're above the car, looking down from a very high perspective into the Jeep. We crane up, tight on Grant, who's removed his hat. Something has completely shaken him, and you can kind of see his eyes are incredibly wide. He removes his sunglasses to really drive the point home. He's not laughing. God, Sam Neill is so good in this scene. Back to Ellie through the windshield. She's still talking about the species of veriformans being extinct since the Cretaceous, which is funny. She's holding a big leaf, and the species she's referring to, which is entirely fictional, but it's probably supposed to be a firm. Who cares? Who cares? This doesn't matter. Another cut to Grant standing, kind of zooming in on his hand. He reaches over to grab Sattler's head, and now we're back outside the car, looking in through the driver's side. The driver is carefully leaned forward for us to see Sattler's head get turned and spun towards what we know is something incredible. This is such a good idea here. This thing we're looking at is so amazing that Grant can't stop looking at it. He's so dumbfounded, he can't say anything. All he can do is just twist his colleague's head to invite her into this amazement. And we get Spielberg reaction shot number 3 as the camera again cranes up for Sattler, who stands to join Grant. The music is still stirring, building tension and anticipation, and now we hear the dinosaur. And we get what I think is the most important shot in the movie Jurassic Park. Right where Sattler's eyes are, watch this, right where the audience is looking, the next cut shows Grant and Sattler from the other side, where we can finally see what they're looking at. It's another long shot, the little Jeep in the foreground, our protagonist watching as a real Brachiosaur wanders through Jurassic Park. We're on a hill. The whole shot's designed to invite you to look from left up to the right at the Brachiosaur, which is so tall you can't even see its head yet. Williams' score kicks in and it's a doozy. We follow the Brachiosaur with the camera moving upward the way the character's eyes are. This is actual magic. We are at this moment watching the film feeling exactly what our protagonists are feeling. We are swept away. This isn't something to laugh at. This is a moment of triumph. We have another long shot where we see Sadler and Grant leave the Jeep to approach the dinosaur, and now our heroes are in the foreground and dwarfed by this amazing huge dinosaur. Grant says, "It's a dinosaur." And to show you how much joy and pride you, the audience, should be feeling, we got a shot at Daddy John Hammond cackling as he makes his way from the Jeep as well, stopping to see Malcolm's, "You did it, you crazy son of a bitch, you did it," with our little comic driver head turn. I do love this humorless driver. The next shot's very low as we hear Grant and Sadler ogling the dinosaur, looking up at the Brachiosaur, which towers above them, eating leaves. It doesn't care they're down there, and they very much care it's up there. We spin around in the next shot and see our heroes from a little bit above, looking down. Hammond is so proud of his creations. This is why he built the park. Not for money, but for this moment right here. And to cement that, while John Williams' score is going ham, we get this profoundly gorgeous shot that really makes me very emotional, to be honest, where the Brachiosaur lifts itself on two legs to eat some leaves at the very tippy top of a tree before landing with a huge, resounding, beautiful thud. Who cares these are supposed to be significantly smaller brontosauruses in the book and early screenplays? Who cares that in Bacher's book he makes the claim that paleontologically the Brachiosaur probably didn't have the tail strength to do this maneuver? It's amazing to see this. It's the whole idea of the film right here. We get more reaction shots, Gennaro saying we're going to make a fortune with this place, and the real secret weapon of the scene, Ian Malcolm just laughing like a child.
How fast are they? Well, we clocked the
I don't think we need to talk too much about the scene more in that much detail, but it does continue with Grant learning they have a T-Rex, almost passing out. Hammond gets to say the line that in the book was a crude hand-painted sign here. Hammond's line, delivered while triumphantly walking away towards the camera, is spoken to us, the audience sitting and watching the movie. He's inviting us to the wonder of this fucking movie, folks.
Welcome to Jurassic Park.
Hammond is looking at what he's done, and then we get another reaction shot from Grant as he sees it. The insane scope of this place, and the score just hits like nothing ever has in humanity as we see the only two shots of hadrosaurs in the whole movie.
They're moving in herds.
Grant's excited about moving them in herds, and as you can see in his eyes and in Sadler's eyes, they're on the verge of tears. And we get the final lines of the scene, said with reverence, like we're sitting in dinosaur church. How'd you do this? I'll show you. Bam! That's how you make a movie. We get to see dinosaurs and feel their power, hear their singing, and yes, we want to know how it's done. Yes, 1,000 times. Yes, yes. It's incredible how easily the film just gets us on board with the park right from this one scene. It's perfect. It's like in the top 10 best Spielberg scenes from any of his movies, right? Like kids flying on bikes in E.T., Close Encounters, Alien Mothership, Omaha Beach from Saving Private Ryan, Boulder Chase from Raiders, maybe even Truck Chase from Raiders. Probably Boulder Chase. I don't know. But this is a very good scene, and it's crucial for the film to work. But it's not enough. Jurassic Park has another trick up its sleeve. You see, later in the book, as in the film, the protagonists are loaded into electric vehicles sent on a tour of the theme park. In the book, weirdly, they see all kinds of dinosaurs on the tour. They see tree-bound Hypsilophodontids, a poisonous Dilophosaur. They even see the Tyrannosaurus eating the goat. And it's not awe-inspiring. Lex Murphy, one of the two children featured in the book and the movie, is actually incredibly bored by seeing the dinosaurs since they don't do anything. In several early screenplay drafts, the tour did feature dinosaur sightings also. But in the final film, as per Kep and Spielberg's vision, the tour doesn't show any dinosaurs. Some of the characters see brachiosaurs and the duck-billed dinosaurs by the lake, as I just said. You see a baby velociraptor, but on the actual dinosaur tour, they see a lot of trees. They take the enthusiasm and excitement and hope from learning about the genetic engineering responsible for the park, and then they're let down by the reality of these being zoo animals that you can't really control. There are two reasons for this. The first reason is obvious. Each time they show a dinosaur, it costs money. Rick Carter, production designer on the film and author of one of the screenplay drafts, made a comment to this effect, saying, if you lose this dinosaur, you save $250,000. If you combine this scene with this one, you save $500,000. For a film that ended up costing an estimated $63 million, figuring out where to spend money was pretty important. But the second reason for not featuring dinosaurs on the tour was to start to showcase the breakdown of the park, the reality as a come down from the dream. The way that Sir Richard Kiley talks about the dinosaurs is as if they should be obviously visible, but they're not there. The tour keeps going on. You can't control these dinosaurs. They're not audio animatronics. They're real creatures who, well, I guess I'll let Ian Malcolm explain.
See, the Tyrannosaur doesn't obey any set patterns or park schedules. It's the essence of chaos.
This sequence is a show don't tell masterclass. Instead of just having a character say they were bored, we get to see the characters react to the disappointment of not seeing dinosaurs on the tour. And we get to be disappointed ourselves as an audience. Show us dinosaurs! We paid to see dinosaurs too! So this leads to the second scene that helps make this movie really work. And I think it's an undersung part of the movie. The tour ambles around after the Tyrannosaur paddock disappointment to discover, well, off to the side of the guided tracks, a gas-powered Jeep, and what they eventually find out is a sick Triceratops. Just before this scene, we get the very charming explanation of chaos theory from the flirtatious Malcolm. But while this is happening, Alan Grant is seeing something exciting off the side of the road, and just as frustrated as the audience is by not seeing any dinosaurs, he leaps out of the moving car to investigate. As I mentioned earlier, the sick Triceratops scene doesn't really need to exist in the movie. As far as I can tell, the purpose of the scene from a plot perspective is only to separate Dr. Sadler from the rest of the primary protagonists. As a result, everything else that happens is in the movie for a reason. And that reason, I would argue, is that we can't just see the dinosaurs, we have to touch the dinosaurs. The idea of the characters encountering a sick dinosaur on the tour is in the novel. There, the sick dinosaur is a Stegosaurus, which is kind of standing around, dopey. And it was a Stegosaurus in Crichton's draft, but it was Rick Carter who changed the dinosaur to a Triceratops per Steven Spielberg's suggestion. Spielberg, it turns out, is a fan of Triceratops from his childhood and considered the dinosaur to be more of a classic. As a Stegosaurus fan myself, I'm a little insulted, but hey, we at least get to see a nice Stegosaurus in the sequel. I'm going to come back to this idea of changing from a Stegosaurus to a Triceratops a little bit. Let's put a pin in that. In the movie, the group of protagonists head down to investigate the Jeep. We get a fun little sequence where Tim Murphy makes fun of the size of Grant's book as compared to Bob Barker's. We get Lex tripping, then holding on to Alan's hand too tightly, all great bits of humor to show you how uncomfortable Grant is with kids. And then we get to see what we're all here to see.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Everybody stay here.
I really love how Spielberg reveals the Triceratops. This is good filmmaking. We see Tim, he's small, a little annoyed that he's been told to stay behind. He wants to see what's so exciting. We follow him from right behind his legs as he pushes through the tall grass. Side note, you know most dinosaurs are older than grass? Triceratops, it turns out, came on the scene right when grass started to evolve. T-Rex couldn't have touched grass because he was older than grass. Man, dinosaurs were around for a long time. Anyway, Tim pushes through the grass and suddenly we see this sick Triceratops lying on its side. There's been no score for this sequence until right when the dinosaur is revealed. We push in and see Alan Grant touching the crest of the Triceratops. Watch his face. This is a huge deal. He's never seen in his life touched a real dinosaur, and now there's one right here in front of him, and he gets to touch it. And the audience sees this and his excitement, and Dr. Sadler's Spielberg reaction face. And then we see Tim Murphy with a huge smile, and hey, in the background, we get Gennaro making his own Spielberg reaction face. The shot just pushes in as Laura Dern really sells the power of seeing this Triceratops. She's crying! She's actually crying! We get another shot that shows the size of the Triceratops and we can see it breathing. And you as an audience member know that this isn't CGI, it's some crazy puppet they've built. We cut back to Laura Dern and yes, she is crying. This is the beating heart of the movie Jurassic Park right here. This is the dream. Alan Grant then says the line that to me is at the core of the entire scene and really the first half of the film.
She was always my favorite when I was a kid, and now I see she's the most beautiful thing I ever saw.
Before I talk more about this scene, let me talk about the puppet. The Triceratops puppet was designed by Stan Winston's visual effects team, led by Al Sousa, based on a concept from Mark Crash McCreary. It was originally designed to be filmed in a controlled studio environment, but Spielberg went to Kauai, Hawaii, where much of Jurassic Park was filmed, and changed his mind, thinking the Triceratops scene should be filmed on location. And the Winston team then had to scramble to get it ready for outdoor filming, since it would take a month for it to ship all the way out to Hawaii. I shipped the puppet in parts so it could fit in the shipping container, and once it arrived, they had to finish painting it after putting it together. While the dinosaur didn't have to walk around, instead it needed to lie on its side, it did have to move to show it was unwell. It needed mechanisms that moved the jaw, the tongue, the eye, the front leg, but it also needed to be able to breathe. Remember, it's a puppet. So it had 1 or 2 people inside, a number of people controlling things underground, and finally, another puppeteer working the eye with a remote control. Also, there were people who had to hang around to make sure it was the right type of slimy. Someone had to deal with refilling the microvesicles. Filming a complicated puppet dinosaur outdoors was a challenge because you were seeing it under natural light, where you couldn't hide anything that might be awry. This is the only Stan Winston puppet filmed outdoors for the film. Winston and his team were, correctly, pretty nervous about whether it would work, whether it would look good, and whether Spielberg would approve. Spielberg recalled his first time seeing the Triceratops puppet. What really, really brought tears to my eyes was watching it breathe, watching its entire thorax rising and falling rhythmically. It turns out Laura Dern's tears were real. They were what happened when she looked at this sad, sick Triceratops in front of her, and I get it. Because of the schedule, this was the first time any of the actors had seen dinosaurs in the movie. In a video posted to the Sam Williamson School YouTube page, Al Sousa recalls seeing Laura's face when she first saw the dinosaurs and how it informed her acting in the scene.
I remember her reaction when she saw it. And I think that actually, in a way, I think that helped her performance because it really, she was able to look at this thing like it was really alive, like she was, helping this sick dinosaur and looking at this living thing.
Man, the Triceratops looks great, even today. It really is beautiful. After we see Ellie Sattler investigate the tongue, we get to see Jurassic Park's veterinarian, Jerry Harding, played by one of the film's producers, Gerald R. Mullen. This, to me, is one of the film's strangest choices. Mullen brings a kind of wet fish energy to the role. It's fine. We're presented with another of the iconic shots of the scene where Alan Grant lays on the stomach of the Triceratops as it breathes, pushing him up. This isn't in the script. It was just suggested by Spielberg after he saw how good the breathing aspect of the puppet looked. We get to see Grant's joy because this is a Steven Spielberg movie. We get to see a character's reaction to the same thing. We see Lex smiling as she sees Grant, suddenly a child himself laying on the Triceratops. The rest of the scene is devoted to showing off Ellie Sattler's paleobotany cred. She's the one who discovers the Triceratops' pupils are dilated, which stuns Dr. Harding, who must be one lousy veterinarian. Actually, maybe I take that back. My brother's a professional veterinarian. I asked him about the scene and he wrote, quote, "Seeing how a Triceratops is very large and is laying down, you can't really do a ton of the common veterinary things. But absolutely you could listen to its heart, listen to its breathing and lungs, and look at the eyes and mouth like the tongue. Those are easy examination steps to get clues. So by him missing the eyes and not checking the mouth and tongue, he failed the basic external examination for sure." Thanks, Robert. However, Robert, my brother, did go on to mention that perhaps Harding had just shown up once the Triceratops was safely sedated and hadn't had time yet to do the investigation before the tour rolled up and everyone piled out to see. So I apologize, veterinarian Jerry Harding. Dr. Sattler discovers some West Indian lilac berries, but Dr. Harding assures her that the dinosaurs don't eat them. She says she wants to dig through the dinosaurs' droppings in order to make sure. This inspires one of the best bits in the movie from Dr. Malcolm, his incredulity about the droppings, and then, when we return to the scene, his very weirdly sexual walk, and his line, "It's one big pile of shit." It's such an iconic scene that the pile of shit has its own Lego set. Look at the little Lego dinosaur poop. Dr. Sattler doesn't find the lilac berries in the poop, wanders off, confused and thinking. We hear a fun exchange between Malcolm and Grant, who steps in some poop, and the scene is done. In the film, we never find out why the Triceratops is sick. This is because the scene that explains what happens, a holdover for how the scene plays out in the book, was cut. It's in kept script. If you've never read the book or seen the shooting script, the scene essentially indicates that the Triceratops has been swallowing lilac berries along with stones, which rumble around in its tummy to help the animal digest. These stones, scientifically called gastroliths, or sometimes gizzard stones, are used by alligators, crocodiles, and some herbivorous birds. And importantly, they've been found in and around dinosaur bones for large herbivores like Stegosaurus. But, and this is something fun from my reading of Bacher's Dinosaur Heresies, there's little evidence that Triceratops used gastroliths. So Spielberg changed the dinosaur, but kept the reason for it to be sick in defiance of scientific evidence. Anyway, Spielberg, correctly, realized that the point of the scene wasn't to figure out why the Triceratops was sick. It was to show us that there are things outside of Hammond's and his engineers' control. There are no dinosaurs in the proper tour, so the guests leave looking for something interesting. Dinosaurs are getting sick on the island. They make a lot of poop. There are no locking mechanisms on the vehicle doors. But even with all that, there are moments of complete beauty found in the park's recreation of the ancient past. The sick Triceratops scene doesn't need to be in the movie, and God knows that some group of studio executives might have seen the cost of puppeteering a big Triceratops and said, this has got to go. But it's there. It's incredibly moving. It's scenes like these that make Jurassic Park so good and so much better than the book. The book is a dumb, standing stegosaurus. The movie has this beautiful, sick, sad puppet who the audience sees through the eyes of multiple characters. A puppet that inspires awe about the beauty of the park. You're jealous of these people that get to go there and get to see these dinosaurs. For this film to be successful, it needs you to want Jurassic Park to work before it very much doesn't. Jurassic Park is a tragedy. It has elements of horror, action, and some comedy, but it's a tragedy. And for tragedy to work, the audience has to be invested in seeing one outcome, even if they know that another is coming. You know that Romeo and Juliet will be dead by the end of their play, spoiler alert. But for a moment, when you watch them fall in love, you imagine they might be okay. When Spielberg first shows us the dinosaurs in this film, he is John Hammond, showing you he can bring these beautiful creatures back from the past with technology that feels like magic. And these two scenes encapsulate that magic. Ellie Sattler is reduced to tears. Tim Murphy, Chatterbox, is completely silent. And Alan Grant is a child again. When I watch movies I like, I try to think about why something was done. Why a camera was placed in a specific spot. Why a scene was included. Why an actor made a specific choice. With Jurassic Park, the more you dig into the subtleties of each scene, the more you realize just how perfect the movie is. Each scene, each shot, each dialogue choice is in the movie for a reason. Each camera move, each angle, each lens, Spielberg was thinking and was surrounded by people who were thinking very hard about how to tell this specific story. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. And if you didn't see my earlier video about the prehistory of Jurassic Park, consider giving that a watch. And again, listening to the Blank Check podcast. I'm a big fan, and that podcast is what inspired this incredibly nerdy deep dive into my favorite movie. See you next for a long and rambling discussion of everything you may have missed, all the weird trivia and strange things I've uncovered through my research with the movie Jurassic Park. See you next time.